on September 11th of 2022, I lost biologically my niece, but I raised her since she was 20 months old, so I consider her my bonus daughter, to a pill that she thought was a pain pill, but it was straight fentanyl. Skylen's unique thing was her eyes. As a baby, her eyes, they were just huge and round and blue as could be. And that was the first thing you ever noticed about her, was her eyes. She was a softball player, basketball player. She played the clarinet and band. She was, she wasn't in any certain group. She was part of every clique. There was not one group in school that did not like her. She fit in anywhere she went. And again, like people say, she had the biggest smile and she could light up a room. She really could. Especially with those big blue eyes. She lost her mom when she was 20 months old because her mom had an asthma attack, and her mom was 18 and unfortunately passed away from her asthma attack. And so my mother and I started raising Skylen. And depending on living situations, she'd either live with me or live with my mom. But in 2012, my mom and I moved together in the same house. So I had all three of my kids, plus Skylen, plus my mom, all of us living together, and doing great. And we thought it was going to be the best thing. And unfortunately, that's kind of when her life started going downhill. When they were the latter part of high school and stuff, and unfortunately, my son was doing some things as well. And the biggest thing was, getting high. But then they started, learning pills, acid, shrooms, and stuff like that. And I remember one time I went down to visit my mom in Springfield, which is where Skylen was living at the time. I was living back here in Oklahoma. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I get woken up to her just laughing, hysterical, and cannot stop. And I'm like, I get up, I open the door, I go, what is going on out here? She had took acid and she was cracking up. And she couldn't even walk 2 steps without falling on the floor laughing so hard. Now, don't get me wrong, it was comical. It made you laugh, but that's not the way I would like her to laugh. But, Skylen had a little bit of a rough childhood. Like I said, lost her mom at 20 months old. Then she moved to Indiana with my mom for a while. And then while living in Indiana, their house caught on fire. And she had to run and get help for my mom because my mom was trying to get my grandmother out of the house. And when the house fire happened, with my mom trying to recover from the house fire, she was stressed to the max of trying to work, recover from the house fire, and take care of Skylen. So that was in 2006. So I said, Mom, send her to me, So she came and lived with me. And then in 2006, and then in 2011, we all moved to Springfield, Missouri together, and she got into wrong crowds and she discovered drugs, and she was a pill popper when she was a teenager and everything. And like everybody else says about, their kids, Skylen did not know a stranger from the time she was born till she passed away. If you became a friend, she was your family. I know a lot of people say that, but she was. And so she had gotten into popping pain pills. Well, then in 2019, we lost my mother to cancer. Skylen spent most of the time when my mom was sick for 5 years taking care of her and everything. And then in August of 2020, she, again, was trying to learn how to live without living with someone, because when my mom passed away was when she got her first apartment by herself. And she was learning how to be a full adult, you could say. And she was just hanging around wrong crowds, and she, unfortunately, some of the people she was hanging out with had some bad people attached to them, and she wound up getting her apartment shot up. They shot 8 rounds into her apartment, not because of her, but because of somebody who had came over. They thought they were living there, and so they shot her apartment up. And luckily, nobody got hit. Everybody was safe. But at that point, when she called and told me, I said, "That's it. You're moving back to Oklahoma," because she was living in Springfield, Missouri at the time. I said, "You're moving back to Oklahoma. I'm on my way. You can bring back anything you can fit in the back of my Buick Enclave. Everything else goes in the trash, give away, whatever. But that's all you get to take," And I did. I got in my car that night, drove to Missouri, got a hotel room, and the next morning got up, went to her apartment, and we packed her up. And my Buick was packed full of her stuff. And we were launching furniture over the balcony into the dumpster, because she lived on the second floor. And we moved her to Oklahoma. And the one thing I told her moving her to Oklahoma was, I don't put up with any drugs. There's no pain pills in my house. That was her biggest addiction, was pain pills. She was there for me when I lost my husband to suicide, unfortunately, and she was there to help me move. She was the one, you always have a glue in the family, and we had 3. One was my mom, one was me, and Skylen was the upcoming glue. So, so when my mom passed away, I needed a rock to lean on. It was Skylen. She was my rock. And I remember the day she passed away, I was asleep. It was Grandparents' Day. And the odd thing about it is her mom passed away on Grandparents' Day of 1998 as well. So both her and her mom both passed away on Grandparents' Day, which I don't know how to explain that coincidence, But I was in bed and my phone rang. And it was her boyfriend. And he was crying, and he just kept on saying, "It's Skylen, it's Skylen, it's Skylen." And I was like, what's going on? What's wrong with her? And just from the tone in his voice, he didn't even have to tell me. I was like, "Jerry, is Skylen dead?" And he's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And at that point, I didn't know what had happened. I just knew I had to get 20 minutes down the road to her. And on the way there, I notify her siblings. One of them was living in my house. I ran to his bedroom to tell him. And he was 17 years old. He's the baby. The other one was at work, about 10 minutes from the house, and I disrupted her at work. Did not know she was there to let her know that her sister had died. And then the other one was in Springfield, Missouri, and him and her were really close because they are 9 months and 2 days apart, and biologically they do have the same father. So my older 2 kids and my niece/daughter are siblings/cousins. If it doesn't make the story more confusing. But I get there, and the sheriff was there. The EMTs had already left. They were waiting on the medical examiner. And they let me go in and see her lying on the floor. I'll never forget that. But I had to see for myself because it felt like a dream. But at that time, we did not know what she passed from. Nobody knew that she got in a pill. Because the night before she passed, she was at work. I even have the picture that was taken of her at work that day. It was the last picture ever taken of her was the day before she died. I guess when she got off work, she got a hold of a friend of hers, and I guess she asked him if he could get her a pain pill because Skylen had been sick with a urethral cyst behind her belly button that she was waiting for to have surgery for, to have it removed, and her surgery date was 18 days after she passed away. So the only thing we can conclude is that she was in pain, didn't feel like going back to the emergency room or anything, so she asked a friend for a pain pill. Because even though she had gotten herself clean, that's one thing she did when she came in, moved back home with me in 2020, August 2020. She got herself clean off of all the drugs, and not just herself, but her boyfriend too. And she was so proud of not just her sobriety, but his sobriety as well. And he has kept his sobriety since she passed away. And I'm very proud of him for that as well. But I guess she didn't feel like going to the emergency room or anything to let him know that she was in pain and needed something to get her until surgery. So she turned to a friend, because once you gotten street drugs, you know how to get them, And matter of fact, she gave him the ride to his dealer to get it. And then she took him home, and then I don't know if she took the pill at his house or she got home and took it. I don't know at what point she took it. But the next morning, her boyfriend Jerry woke up and her alarms were going off for her to go to work. And she was what he thought was still asleep. So he stepped out to smoke a cigarette, nothing unusual. He came back in to wake her up. And when she didn't wake up, he rolled her over and saw that her lips were blue. And then started screaming for his mom to call 911. And got her on the floor and started doing CPR on her until EMTs got there and they worked on her. But she was too far gone. And so at that time, we thought she passed away from her urethral cyst that was behind her belly button. I thought it had burst or became sepsis. And because once you become sepsis, it can take you really quick, especially if you don't know you are. You can go to sleep. 6 months later, March 9th of 2023, I got the email from the medical examiner's office. And I had woke up. Everybody was asleep in the house, and I had checked my email. I always check my email when I wake up in the morning, and I saw that email that said medical examiner. I knew what it was, and I sat there for a minute wondering, do I wake somebody up to open this with me, or do I have to do it by myself? And I decided to do it by myself because I didn't know what shock I was going to get. And I opened it up, and I read through it, and they listed it as fentanyl toxicity. And she had 43 nanograms per milliliter of her femoral blood. The only other thing they found in her system was Benadryl, and that's because she takes Benadryl to sleep. They didn't find anything else, so she had gotten a straight fentanyl pill when she thought she was getting a Percocet, an Oxy, something like that. Because the one thing I know about her, she wouldn't do any fentanyl. Because when my mom had the cancer, she was on fentanyl patches. She would have my mom put them on. The first time she ever put a fentanyl patch on my mom, they didn't give them any instructions other than, you just stick it on. So she didn't have any gloves on when she put it on, and her finger touched the fentanyl accidentally, and it gave her an instant headache. And she was like, I can't, this is awful. And so fentanyl was one drug that she would never do. And that's one thing I know for sure. So with her having 43 nanograms in her system, it's not something she would look for. I know when I talked to the medical examiner, because I wanted to know, I wanted to have an idea of how much this was. And when I talked to the medical examiner, the best reference she could give me was when you go into the hospital to have surgery and they give you the hospital grade fentanyl, and let's say for some reason you pass from the surgery and they test your blood, hers was 4 times the amount that you would find from somebody who just had surgery. So she had enough for 4 people in her body. And the sad part is, I have, through reading people's stories and everything, I've found people that have died from a lot more than she did. It's awful. And she was, I call her my bonus daughter, because when my sister passed away, she is what I had left of my sister. And I got to watch a piece of my sister grow up again, And so when she passed, you basically took 2 people. The guy basically took 2 people from me at the same time, because it finished off. It was like the closing the casket on my sister, and then my niece/daughter. And she was, everybody, I know people say about the kid, but everybody loved her. Just nobody could believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I can't even get the cops to do anything. There was no investigation at all the day she died, because we didn't know it was fentanyl. When I found out it was fentanyl, I'm the one that contacted Rogers County to figure out how to start an investigation, because I want some type of justice. I don't necessarily have to have a murder charge on the person who did it, but if I can at least get him off the street and behind bars for trafficking, that saves so many lives. And so I went to the Rogers County Sheriff's Department. I gave my statement. Her boyfriend gave his statement. My fiance gave his statement, because we were, the last few people to see her. We told them who to talk to, who to find out, we told them who the last person that truly saw her before she laid down to go to sleep with her boyfriend. And they haven't talked to him. Unfortunately, her cell phone got locked up. She had an iPhone, and something tapped the screen too many times and locked it up to where it says master reset or emergency calls only. And so they have not been able to get into her phone, which I told them I went through that phone right after, the day after she passed away. And there was nothing. Because I did look, because, she used to have a pain pill addiction. And I knew she'd been clean for 2 years, but this was a sudden death. So I looked through her phone to find out if I could find anything. And I couldn't. The only way I knew who she was with before she went home was because I had the message on my phone that said that she was going to go give a friend a ride. But they won't talk to him. They won't do anything about it, because they said they don't have enough evidence to do anything. But again, they have not talked to the last person that she was really with. Because when she got home, her boyfriend was already in bed going to sleep. And, the most conversation they had was, she goes, "You're already in bed going to sleep?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm tired," and then she got ready for bed. So there has not been any justice for her death. The big lesson here is, for one, don't trust anything somebody gives you. If it has not been prescribed to you, don't take it, because you do not know what damage you're leaving behind whenever you do take this stuff off the streets and you don't know what's in it. Because when you die from it, I've had to be here and be the strong person for 3 siblings and be there for them to keep them going and get them through this, which is why I do this fight. I do this fight so another family doesn't have to go through this. It is horrible. It is heartbreaking. Your heart just sinks in your chest when you open up that medical examiner's report and it says fentanyl toxicity. Because everybody thinks, not my kid. I don't have to worry about that. That's never going to happen to me. And I thought that, I would never imagined fentanyl being in her body. It definitely was not there by her choice. it was definitely there by her not knowing what she was taking, because they are pressing these pills that look just like the originals. So she was poisoned. She was murdered. It is murder. She didn't ask to die. She simply asked to take care of some pain so she could go to work the next day, not have to be put in the ground next to her mother and her grandmother. That was not supposed to be her story. She's supposed to be here for her nieces and nephews that love her and miss her so much, talk about her all the time, and, misses their dance party that they used to have. And, she's got a nephew that she hasn't even gotten to meet because he was born after her passing. And he'll never know how happy she could make his people, just how much fun she was, how much energy she had. The girl never stopped. She walked in the house and comedy came in with her. I'm telling you, she could have been a stand-up comedian because she was just hilarious. I mean, we used to do weekly family dinners. And matter of fact, I just came across it the other day on my Facebook page. We had a family dinner, and three of the four were there. And at the end of the family dinner, it turned into a food fight. I had rice thrown. And it was it was a mad food fight. It was a funny one, but I had rice fly everywhere. I had broccoli. The grandbabies, her niece and nephew, got involved in throwing food across the table. You just never knew what was going to happen when she was around. She made everybody laugh, everybody smile, and she was there for everybody. There was, like I said, when my mom died, she was the one, if I had a problem, she was the one I ran to. She was the one that would calm me down and be like, okay, we can figure this out, And like one time my car broke down and I didn't know how I was going to get back and forth to my two jobs. And so I called her and I was crying. And she's like, okay, Mom, just calm down. Let's figure this out. She's like, okay, what days do you work? And what times do you work? And then she started comparing her schedule with my schedule and figuring out how to work not just my two jobs, but her job on her one car when we didn't live together. And I'm going to tell you what, that girl managed to do it. That girl made sure that I made it to work every day. When I couldn't see a solution, she always found it. And that's who she was. That's what she did for everybody. She was a helper. She always wanted to improve people. She always wanted to help them be better, like her boyfriend. He was the true love of her life. He was the longest boyfriend she had. We had a running joke for years that we knew if they were going to last more than 6 months, because around the 4th month mark, if she didn't start complaining about him, then they might make it past 6 months. But around 4 months, if she started complaining about her boyfriend, nope, he's going out the door at 6 months. And this was the first boyfriend that managed to make it past her 6 months mark. And they made it 2 years. When they were talking about getting a house together, she wanted to have a baby so bad, but they were talking about getting a house together, moving in and having kids. And he's still part of our family because I look at him as my son. He would have been if this would not have happened. But when I say she wants to better people, she helped him get clean. She helped him quit drinking, quit doing drugs, showed him that there was a better life out there, and helped him get his life straightened up. To this day, he still holds that sobriety, and he's still trying to make his life better because every day he wakes up, he thinks, okay, what would Skylen want me to do today? And I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of him and all my kids who have made it through this, but it's hard. It is very hard. And we're still suffering. We all still have the pain. It has not gone away yet. I don't know if it'll ever go away.